delicious.
Me Mama Fishy Paul and Yanomni Adolfo. Seasons greetings to you and yours from me and mine. I'm sharing with you this party chips and peanut recipe because if you've not had this year, then I don't think your holiday celebration is complete yet. You know, just like how we did it back in the days, I am bringing you, yes, another childhood favorite, childhood memories, and we are going down memory lane and doing this the perfect way ever. Come along with me and let's do this. I know you are going to love it and so will your kids. So I have here a bag of peanuts. This is 4 pounds of peanut. Yes, it is a lot because I'm making a big batch so I can have enough to give to our friends as well. Like all recipes, everybody has their own. There's so many ways to do things, but this is how my mom taught me, and we always pre-boil our peanuts before we do it. So I've poured everything into my saucepan. I've added some water to cover it. I'm seasoning with some salt, just about a teaspoon of salt. Cover and bring this to a boil. So we are not really boiling, we are more like parboiling this. So once it boils over, it is done. So just look, it is still very hard, very firm. I turned off the heat and I'm straining it into a colander so it gets the chance to just be dry again. You know, it's going to be soft, but you want it to be dry and cool off before you start doing anything. So I've set that aside and I'm going to focus on my chips now. And adding onions, just a little bit of onions to your chips really elevates the flavor in it. So I'm going to blend about half of a medium onion and this is going to go in. I have my flour ready. I'm going to list everything for you in the description box. Of course, I've added my salt. I'm going to add some sugar as well. Just a little bit of sugar. I said it in my previous video that I shared with you and I'm saying it again. It's not going to be tasted in your chips at all. It's just a flavor enhancer and it's going to just make everything perfect. I've also added my nutmeg. It is after all a Ghanaian pastry and you know how we love our nutmeg. So definitely some nutmeg. Manintir muwati. So anyway, my butter is going to go in now. This is room temperature. I like it to be soft so it's easier for me to just mix it up in there. If you prefer to use cold butter, then of course you might want to cut up in blocks and put it in here. I'm using my hands instead of my stand mixer because I feel like it's going to be faster for me. You can definitely use your mixer, but this is a lot and doing it in batches, I was like, I might as well just finish everything faster with my hands. So I have all my butter in there now. And yes, this is something different that I am introducing to you. I put about 1/4 of an 8-ounce block of cream cheese in here. So about 2 ounces of cream cheese. And this is going to make it even creamier. It helps it to be crunchier. The flavor in there, the taste is just beyond amazing because you know cream cheese is milky. It's milkier than the butter even. It's more like you added some heavy cream or milk, you know, in there. It's just a different taste. So definitely add that if you can. I learned it from a friend a few years ago. She makes the best chips ever. Philippa Midasiwa, Yamisha says, Afishia Panso. Yep. So there we go. And I am just going to mix everything. You see how I'm mixing it, rubbing it in my palm. Yes, that is how you want to do it. That is the best way for you to be able to get that butter well incorporated in your flour so you end up with a very, very smooth or evenly mixed up mixture like this. Can you even see that? Constantly rubbing, dropping and picking more. You rub, you drop, and now everything is well combined. So I'm just showing you my pastry, my handheld pastry mixer or dough mixer. That can also do, if you want to use that, that really works as well. So I would have used that right from the beginning. It helps to make the butter just mix up quick. I have that. I hardly ever use it, so I just forgot I have it. I just remembered, so I was like, let me show you. Maybe some of you would want that to make it easier. So once you can squeeze your mixture in your hand like this and it clumps together like that, but it easily also falls right apart when you just try to crumple it, then you know you got a very rich, perfect texture for your mixture. So that is going to make sure that your chips comes out rich but not overly rich. It's not going to just, you know, melt in the oil when you fry it. So I've made a well in my mixture and I'm pouring in here my blended onion. And this way I'm able to just mix from the center so everything is easy to combine. Gradually, as you see, I keep turning what is around the well inside. So I'm going to continue doing this until everything is well combined. Then I'll start adding the water gradually. So I rinsed out my blender with some water, and I'm going to keep pouring it in bits in here and mixing up until I get my desired texture. Yes, in most recipes just like this, I'm going to provide you with a list of ingredients, but you tend to find out that there are some times that you need a little bit more of an ingredient, which especially is the water or milk, whatever you are using to bind. And sometimes I think this is determined by the temperature of wherever you are. So you don't just go in and pour like 2 cups of water. If I said 2 cups of water for this recipe, you do it gradually because you might end up needing more or less. Okay, so sometimes you go by the feel or look of your ingredients, how it's supposed to be, and not just by just going ahead and adding the wet ingredient, because this is a pastry and you want it to be a certain way. So just like you've seen, I've added the very last of my water now because it still needed it, and I'm going to try to fold it in and there like so. At this point, most of it is already mixed up, so I'm going to start shaping them into balls, and the rest that is around, I ended up using just a little bit of water, and this is what I'm talking about. So just a little bit of water to get the loose ones also to come together into a ball. And this is the very last of it, and there we go. So I'm going to put my shaped balls in here. I hope you see how the balls are. They are not easily smooth, or they didn't come out very smooth because it's not too much water in there, and you want your balls to be like this when you shape them. So I've put them in a bowl to make room for me, and I'm going to start rolling them out so we can start stretching it. I left them on the countertop, you know, just so I'll be working on it because it is cold here. If you are in a place that is warm or hot, I'll suggest that you keep a few out whilst you work on them and leave the rest in the fridge. That way it's not going to be too soft. The butter won't melt and make it a little bit too soft and sticky for you to work on. I'll be using my pasta or noodle maker to do this. It's faster for me, and this is a lot. But if you were just using your board and your knife or scissors, you would just roll it out whichever way you want and cut it up. I did that in my previous video, and I'll link it for you as well. But this one is a lot, and I'm not going to be wasting time trying to use my scissors. I'm just going to end up using the machine to do everything. So I'm just trying to get them into like nice shapes that will be easy for it to fit into the noodle maker, and then that way I can just go ahead and use that to be fast. So I'm making this recipe for you if you want to make a big batch of chips, you know, for a party, or you want to start a business. Yes, I am always delighted to know that some of you have picked up a few things from here and turned it into a business. I also mentioned in a video, my thank you video one time, that I also learned to make meat pie, you know, perfect textured meat pie at a point when I was so much in need of money, and that has helped me. And so if I can help in any way, if watching my videos is going to help you set yourself up and be self-sufficient, I am more than honored to be able to do that. Anyway, so I'm rolling this out in the machine just so it's a little thinner and it can feed into the part that cuts it up into a noodle. This machine is very handy. If you're making a big batch of stuff, you definitely need this. It's so inexpensive anyway, and it's going to make you go faster. And the surprising thing is my husband really likes to work with this. He loves to just do it. So I just have to make my pastry for him, and he's going to roll everything out and cut it up for me. Like, how perfect. Yes. It is like a toy. And if you have an older child, they most likely will love to use this as well. So I've dusted some baking sheets with some flour, and I'm going to be transferring my noodles once they are cut up onto it. That way they don't stick to the pan. And as I'm doing this, at this point, my oil is already heating up. And as soon as I'm done cutting up everything, I'm going to start frying. Delicious. Delicious.
delicious, yeah, delicious,
And yes, this is how much chips we are making, and this makes me say, now I can expand my tie and dye business. In this case, of course, it is my chips business, okay? We are out to spread some love and cheer, okay? Some goodies. So my oil is hot at this point, and I'm going to start frying my chips. I'm just testing with just one of the chip in here. The oil is pretty hot, as you can see. It came right to the surface, and so I'm going to start adding my noodles in here. Yes, it's my chips, but I cut them to be noodles, and as you can see, they just come straight to the surface. And this is how you want it to be. Very, very hot oil, so your chip is not going to end up absorbing the oil as it sits there to heat up. You don't want it to be soggy. You want it to be perfect. You see these noodles coming up? As you turn them, they break up a little bit, but not too much, so they're not going to end up being extremely long and just winding together and being mixed up in a mesh like a net or anything like that. It will just be perfect once it is all done and come out of the oil. You wait and see. So once your chips start looking like this and feeling like this, as you can see, it is a little bit crispy now. You know it is ready. You just don't want it to sit in here for 10 extra seconds, because that would be a total disaster, and you end up saying my year cost 90. You worked for nothing, and we don't want to do that. We really want to enjoy these chips, okay, and spread the love by giving it to other people, because you will just keep what is good to yourself and not be able to go and give to somebody. And not only you deserve to taste this, this is so good. You need to share. So anyway, I'm bringing it out of the oil, and I hope you hear the sound as it gets into the strainer. That shows how crispy, crunchy it is, but it is also so soft, almost melting in your mouth. You will love this, I know for sure. So the very first batch was not so much of a mess in my oil, so I'm not going to strain the oil before I fry the next batch. It is just good enough at this point for me to put the next batch in there, but I'm going to fish out every little piece that I can get so it does not cause the next batch to start burning. So almost right away, I'm going to put the next batch in here, and of course the oil is still very hot at this point. I had reduced the heat, so I'm bringing it up just a little bit, so it's going to be on medium heat, so this gets to really boil up or fry up, and then you reduce it as it starts getting crispy again. So just regulate your heat as much as you can, and of course you want to stir it as soon as it goes in the oil, otherwise they're going to cook and be just stuck together, and you won't have them just coming out in little strings like how you want it to be. And this one is done as well. So you will realize that as your chip starts getting cooked, the more batches you fry, your oil starts getting foamy, and so you really end up needing to change your oil at some point in time if you are making a lot of chips. Otherwise, it is going to just bubble over at some point, and that is going to be a disaster. Like, not just a disaster, but that is like a hazard. You don't want to cause a fire. You don't want to hurt yourself. So once it gets extremely foamy, I would say maybe about 4 batches later, you really have to change your oil. It's happened to me before, so I'm talking from experience, and it wasn't pretty. So please be careful. So by this point, you definitely have a lot of particles in your oil, and you want to fish them out or strain your oil before you fry other batches to make sure that you don't have burnt pieces coming into the next batch when you do it, or it's just going to make your oil burn anyway. So ideally, strain your oil.
delicious, 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 delicious.
Our third batch is ready to come out of the oil as well, and you can see here that I still have a lot of foam now. This is what I was talking about, and so I'm bringing this out, and I'm still going to go ahead and use this to fry my 4th batch. But I have to even tell you, at this point, I had to babysit everything. I had to stay by it and keep stirring the surface because I didn't want it to boil over. So please, 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 like I said, be careful. At this point, you may want to just change your oil. Hopefully you are not making as much and you don't have to encounter this, but once it gets like this, you just better off just changing it. And the oil that comes, you fry your chips in, is so perfect to make your stews. Remember back in the day, our moms used to make typical tomato stew, like brown stew, how we wanted to be very good, especially for fish. They actually used flour in the stew. So a family friend who was here with me 2 years ago and helped me to really get my chip making game perfect, until, may she rest in peace, she passed away a few months ago. She was actually mentioning the fact that the rice sellers would come to them, because they used to make a lot of chips to sell. They would come to them and collect the oil, buy the oil from them, and that is what they used to make their stew. So yes, you can just set this on the side in the container and just be using it until it's all used up to make your perfect tomato stew. Okay, so anyway, fourth batch is done. It was a hassle. Like I told you, I had to keep trying to get the bubbles to stay and not come all the way up, but finally I'm done with my chips. And by the time this was done, I was super tired. I was so exhausted, so I had to, of course, listen to my body, and I decided to make the peanuts the next day. So the next day I'm here getting my ingredients ready, and of course that peanut has sat overnight, and so it is very dry, of course, absolutely cool, room temperature perfect now. And I have my flour in my bowl. I've added my sugar, nutmeg, and I'm going to add some salt. And of course, like I said, everything is going to be listed for you as well. And I'm just going to stir this, let it all be well combined, and then I'm going to make a well and then crack in my eggs and add my liquid ingredients as well.
From what she was kitchen, yeah. Delicious, yeah, delicious, delicious, yeah, delicious, 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 yeah, delicious. Have you been go? Tasty. Delicious. Da, 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 da.
So in my first video that I shared with you, I didn't add any vanilla extract to my peanuts, but today I'm going to be adding some vanilla extract because this is going to up the flavor in it, so why not? So about 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract is in here now. I've mixed it.
Delicious, yeah, delicious, delicious, yeah, delicious.
I'm going to add a 1/3 cup of milk in here. If you are lactose intolerant, just add water and omit the milk part. So you replace that with just water and that should be fine.
Delicious, 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 yeah.
So just because this is a lot of peanuts I'm going to be making, I'm going to split my batter into 2, so I'll be able to evenly coat everything and then just fry in batches. So I'm going to put a half in this and then the other half will go in the other bowl. That way I'll be able to mix it better.
Can you smell the aroma? Yeah. From what she was kitchen, yeah. Delicious, yeah, delicious, delicious, yeah, delicious, 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 yeah.
You just want to make sure that every grain of peanut in here is perfectly covered with this batter. And trust me, once it gets in the oil, of course, this is just going to puff up. So you have your very well coated. You don't need this any thicker than this. It's just going to fry perfectly. At this point, my oil is very hot now and ready for us to fry. So let's start frying our peanuts. So checking to make sure our oil is hot enough. Of course, it is perfectly hot. So I'm going to start scooping my peanuts in here. And yes, once it goes into the oil, you want to stir it right away, because otherwise the flour or the batter is just going to start puffing up right away and your peanuts are going to be stuck together. It is inevitable that you have some of them stuck together, but you don't want to have like 10 pieces of it together. This is not in katikeko. This is not peanut brittle, okay? We are not doing fried peanut brittle. You don't want a bar. You want them to be separate, just the way they're supposed to be. So with every scoop in here, I stir and then I get some more until I feel like I have enough in my oil, which is about now. So I'm not going to be adding any more. Just going to be stirring until it's really crisp up a little bit, and then you can just let it sit and fry and then come in every so often to stir it. Once your peanut begins to get golden, just about now, you know it is done. Like I'm saying, you don't want it to be super golden or brown before you bring it out. So I took one, of course, I tasted it. But let me tell you that once you taste it, even when it's this hot, it's not going to even taste normal. The peanut is going to be soft. It really becomes perfect how you really want it to be once it, you know, cools off. But it's ready to come out of the oil, so I'm going to get it out. And then, of course, fry my next few batches. Just look at that. So, of course, there's a lot of particles in here, and definitely you need to strain your oil before you fry more. And that is what I'm doing now, because I don't want, you know, these burnt pieces to just mix up in the batter and just end up in the next few batches I'm going to fry. That will not be pretty, you know. So please do that. So for every batch that you fry, you want to make sure you stir so the batter is well coated again on the peanut, because when it sits down, it tends to settle and separate from the peanuts, and you want this to be perfect. And also still don't forget to stir when you put your peanuts in the oil. You know, make them separated before you add more to this. So there's still a lot of room in my oil, so I ended up adding more from the other bowl in here just to make sure that everything is, you know, I'm going to end up frying this hopefully in 3 batches and be done. And even I almost forgot and just put it in there, but you see I caught myself and I stirred it, because you want every part to be beautiful, you know, everything to be well coated. Otherwise it won't be if you don't really mix it in the batter before you fry. It smells amazing in here. It smells so good.
Delicious, 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 delicious.
So I think our second batch is very well done now. Look at how golden it is. Of course, like I said, don't expect it to look perfectly golden and very hard and crunchy before you bring it out of the oil. It is going to cool off and harden or get crunchy and crispy when it's very cool. So yes, this is perfect, and this is going to come out of the oil and into a strainer.
Delicious, yeah, yeah. Delicious, da-da. Delicious, yeah, yeah. Delicious, da-da-da. Delicious, delicious, da-da. Delicious, yeah, yeah. Delicious. Can you smell the aroma? Yeah.
Now, how perfect is this? How perfect. Yes, this is so good. I'm going to fry my very last batch, of course, but I have to make sure that I get all these particles out of the oil, as many of them as I possibly can, of course, and then I'll fry the very last batch.
Delicious, yeah, yeah. Delicious, delicious, yeah, yeah. Delicious.
Are there any family traditions from when you were growing up that just bring a smile on your face anytime you think about it? For me, I think this is one of the many. My mom made this every year, especially towards the new year. And, there might be other times of the year that we made chips, maybe for birthday parties and other stuff. But definitely for every holiday season, around Christmas, we always had chips and nkati, bonya chips and nkati. And I just remember how we would help our mom. She would cut up the chips in strips, and we'll sit down and just use scissors to cut it up for her so she fries it. And the peanuts, and of course just take some out to our cousins and family friends and the rest. It just brings such great memories, and I really hope to be able to instill such memories in my own children, so one day when they leave home they can think about all these things and just remember their childhood and how pleasant it was and everything. I haven't seen my mom in over a year, getting on to 2 years, and just the thought of doing this just brings such fond memories. And of course, one day I want my children to be able to have such memories as well. I really hope you enjoy doing this with me. It is always an honor to have you on board, and I really enjoy doing this with you. Yes, we did a lot of work, but I hope you are able to try this. So Mama always kept her chips and peanuts in these, what we call abrochenchensi, these enamel cookware. And then that is how she stored it. But of course I know better, and I will save mine in airtight containers if I make too much. But look at this, enjoyment galore. And I also say, look at this. This is just perfect. Yes, your holiday celebration could not be better. Of course, if you don't have this, then what are you doing? What are you doing? Get up and make something. Your family and friends will be super thankful. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and share this video. And until I come your way next time with something delicious, be loving, be kind, be happy.